I've been called unrealistic, overly optimistic, too drunk on Kool-Aid, and my favorite one of them all has to be delusional. But this week, for the first time in over a year, I'm getting messages, comments, and seeing people who always have something negative to say agreeing with some of the positive takeaways that I've had all season. And I'm not sure if it's the lack of talent in the Big Ten West, the top 25 defense, or Matt Rhule's speeches from the game week vlogs, but for whatever reason, those who didn't before are starting to believe in this team. 6 games in, and we've been through what feels like an entire season already, but the lessons learned from their 2-3 start could be the difference between winning the West and missing a 6th straight bowl game. But these guys aren't focused on that because it's just about going 1-0. So today, we'll talk about what it'll take to win the week and why Northwestern isn't a team to overlook. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss my live reaction right after the game. And if you think the Black Shirts can hold Northwestern to less than 10 points, hit the like button and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Thompson winds up, goes deep, got a man, touchdown!
I don't really watch TV or many long-form videos because I'm always busy, but the football team's been dropping 30-minute vlogs for game weeks, showing the behind the scenes with practices and what Rhule's been saying to his players. So I had to make a point to watch those as soon as they got released on YouTube. I know like 80% of you already watched them, but if you're one of the few who hasn't seen it yet, you got to make sure you go and check them out. The key takeaways from all of Rhule's speeches and the talks when he has the team together is that he knows exactly what the problems have been the last few years, and he attacks them head on. Will you keep fighting to put the game away even if you're up 14? How will you respond if they're at the 1-yard line and we need to stop? Your best football should have been when you were down 28-0. Friday night, we're going to find out who's one of us and who isn't. The issues at Nebraska haven't been from lack of talent. Those teams had enough to work with to get to 8 wins, no problem. The issues were all mental, and ever since Rhule and his staff got in the building, they've been doing everything they can to start to flip that mindset. You think about this season and all of the injuries to big names, the losses to shitty Minnesota and Colorado, and then you look at how they've bounced back to get to 500, and now they've got a chance to win 6, 7, or even 8 games, despite having to play a bunch of true freshmen and guys who've never had a significant role before. It was never a talent issue, and we all knew that, but ever since Matt Rhule started his mission to change the culture, we've watched the team grow and get a little bit better each week. And while the old Nebraska would have broken down over the course of the season, the new Nebraska just keeps getting stronger. I think back to September 9th. I was sitting by myself on a bench on Colorado's campus. I was watching fans go by celebrating this 3-touchdown victory, feeling like they were on top of the world. I was getting ready to go live and to give my thoughts on the game, but I didn't have the motivation. Honestly, I wanted to skip it and I wanted to go to the bar with my friends because in that moment, it felt like the issues that plagued Nebraska for so long just weren't issues that the new staff was going to be able to fix in this first season. And to get excited for another 4-8 finish just wasn't going to happen. Then you fast forward to today. Wisconsin and Iowa are only 3-point favorites over Illinois and Minnesota. Nebraska's favored by double digits over Northwestern, who's 3-3 with a Big Ten win. And now Vegas gives Nebraska the 3rd best chance to win the West. And actually, they're the only 2-loss team who has a shot since Minnesota and Illinois are such big underdogs after they lost the games that they were supposed to win. I'm rooting hard for another Wisconsin or Iowa loss this week, but even if those two keep winning, Nebraska's still alive in the West and they control their own destiny. Now let's get into this week and talk about Northwestern. You know, before the year started, they lost fits. Vegas said they'd only win 2 or 3 games at the most, and expectations were ridiculously low since they finished last year on an 11-game losing streak. Now, they're working with new receivers who transferred in from ASU and Michigan, a QB who came from Cincinnati, and an interim head coach who needs to win as many as he can to boost his resume. They already exceeded their expectations with a blowout win over UTEP and a 21-point fourth-quarter comeback against Minnesota to pull the upset at home. And if they can win just one more game this year, that would make 2023 a successful year in Evanston. You look back at their history against Nebraska, and the winner flips every year. And I hate to say it, but based on the games and the outcomes, they've been Nebraska's most even matchup and closest thing to a rivalry game in terms of how the games finish every year since they joined the Big Ten. In 10 games, the victory margin on either side has been 8 points or less 7 out of 10 times. It's almost always a close one, and last year was no different. I mentioned that they've exceeded expectations, and if you look at the schedule they've dealt with, it's pretty similar to Nebraska's situation. At Rutgers to start the year, a road game against a top 25 Duke, the blowout loss to Penn State at home, and two free wins against UTEP and Howard. They're further behind in terms of coaching, resources, and talent, but the reality is they've got just as much to play for since they control their own destiny for a bowl game and the Big Ten West, just like Nebraska does. So let's start off with their offense, led by Ben Bryant at QB, who's been serviceable at best, leading one of the worst offenses in the entire country. It's crazy. If you look at the bottom 13, you'll find Indiana at 118, Minnesota at 119, Northwestern at 120, and Iowa in dead last at 130. But it's hard to know if they're really that bad or they're just a victim of their circumstances. They've played Penn State, who has the number one defense, Rutgers, who's 8th, Duke at 16, Minnesota, who's 63rd, and UTEP's at 77. They haven't gotten a break yet, and this week will be no different since the Black Shirts are 24th in the nation and the Run D ranks 3rd. Their hope is that they can get the passing game going with Cam Johnson or Bryce Kurtz, who both have about 25 catches for 300 yards, but their O-line's given up almost 4 sacks a game, so they're going to have to get creative with their blocking or try to get Bryant to release it quicker since Tony White's great at bringing pressure. Normally, Northwestern's got a stable of backs and they'll try to wear a team down like Minnesota does, but this year Cam Porter's been pretty underwhelming. He averages 4 yards a carry, but between him and the backup, they're only on pace for an 800-yard year, which probably means they're not getting to a bowl game. If there's one compliment we can give to Bryant and the offense, it's that they don't turn it over very often. They rank 11th in turnovers lost with only 4 picks and 1 fumble, so takeaways would be a win. But I just don't see them being able to move the ball much unless they get good field position or a lucky play like Illinois had when their receiver beat Newsome over the top in the end zone to score 7 before the half. On the other side, they're playing a lot better. David Braun was the defensive coordinator at North Dakota State for 4 years before he took over for Fitzgerald. And in those 4 years, they went to the FCS National Championship 3 times and won it twice. They rank 55th nationally, which is higher than Minnesota, Louisiana Tech, Illinois, and Colorado. So this will be one of the offense's toughest matchups yet. But here's the good news. Their strength's in the secondary, and the run D isn't very good. They give up over 4 yards a carry and 170 plus per game on the ground. Nebraska's offense that can't throw it very well ranks 17th in rushing with over 5 yards a carry and 200 yards a week. Harburg's become more of a dual threat and less one-dimensional, so defenses have to account for that. And both Emmett Johnson and Josh Fleeks are capable backs who I think are proven more now that they're fully capable of taking on more carries to help Anthony Grant. Xander Mueller and Bryce Gallagher are their 2 linebackers who've combined for 96 tackles, 8.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. So they'll be the 2 I'm watching the most since they're the stars on the team. But even though they're legit, they'll need help from the line if they're going to slow down Nebraska's run game. Vegas has Nebraska favored by 11.5 this week, but I don't know. It's hard to trust such a big line in a game that's usually played so close. Over the last 2 seasons, when Nebraska's a dog against Big Ten West opponents, they're 6-1 against the spread, but the one time they were the favorite, they lost outright in Ireland. Today's video is sponsored by BroThrow, and a couple weeks ago, there were over 150 Corn Craze subscribers who bet Nebraska +3 with me, and since they won that one outright, we all won our bet. I've had some huge weekends betting on BroThrow, and I'm making more there than I would on a sportsbook or any of the apps since they don't charge a 10% VIG. It's available in all 50 states, it doesn't require a deposit, there are no minimums or withdrawal requirements, and most importantly, spread bets and totals pay even money, so if you bet 50, you'll win 50. If you're betting on college football, NFL, MLB, or any other sports somewhere else, you can sign up for free at brothrow.com/GBR, and you'll start winning a lot more there than you would on whatever book you've been using. The total's set at 41, so Vegas thinks Nebraska is going to win something like 27-14, and that sounds pretty accurate. So I'm probably going to sit this one out. The game against Illinois was so exciting because Nebraska was the underdog and they had to play on the road at night. But now the expectations are different and they're playing at home coming off a win. In the past, we would have called this a comfortable spot, and it would make me nervous because the team might overlook their opponent. But this week feels different. I talked about the videos that we keep getting from inside the locker room, and we see what's actually being said and how Coach Rhule's approach is paying off to help his team get better and to keep growing as the season goes on. Fans know there's no time to let up and that anyone in the West can pull off a win any given Saturday. But until the players feel that same urgency and stop playing down to the level of their competition, they're going to continue to lose the games that they're supposed to win, just like they did to start the year. The message is clear and it's being delivered every single day. Be relentless. Never let your foot off the gas. Treat a 14-point lead like you're losing the game. And when the whole team, not just the defense or the special teams, buys in and lives with that same mentality that Matt Rhule has, they're going to crush teams like Northwestern and they're going to be in position to get back into the top 25. So that's what you've got to predict this week. Do they match the 4th and 1 on the goal line energy? Do they wake up pissed off like Trey Palmer does before every game that he gets in the end zone? Or is this the same regression back towards mediocrity? It's hard for me to imagine the latter because I'm bought in. I understand what this staff wants, and I see how getting the entire team to think that same way is going to bring Nebraska back to national relevancy. There are leaders on both sides of the ball who echo Rhule's sentiments every day in practice, and I'm a believer that they know they're better than the team they're playing on Saturday, but they knew they were better last year too, and they didn't forget how it felt to fly all the way back home with a loss. I'm taking Nebraska to win 23-10 to get to 4 wins and to remind themselves that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And just because you were down bad a month ago doesn't mean you still have to be down bad today. They're going to go 1-0 this week, and then all focus is going to shift to another game at home where they're going to be the favorite against Purdue, and they just have to keep that positive momentum going 1 week at a time. I skipped the analysis for how Nebraska matches up at each position and where Northwestern might have an advantage because that shit doesn't matter. They're almost a 2-touchdown favorite. Northwestern won't win this game. Nebraska would have to lose it, but this team's getting further and further away from those losing habits as the season goes on. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Will they start a 2-game win streak this Saturday, or are you still hesitant to get your hopes up? Can Northwestern score more than 1 touchdown on this defense, or are they going to have to hope for some field goals? And how much do you think winning down the stretch can help in recruiting? I saw Grant Bricks was projected to go to OU, and some other recruits are targets for SEC schools, so hopefully some wins can draw guys back in. But that's all I've got for today, so until next time, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.